Well, joining us tonight, the Chief Election Commissioner, Mr. S.Y. Quraishi, who's himself in the news these days, particularly for his decision in Uttar Pradesh to enforce the Model Code of Conduct and to order that Mayawati statues and the statues of her party symbol, the elephant, are covered. Mr. Quraishi, thank you very much for joining us tonight. Let me first ask you a big picture question. Now that the countdown to the polls has begun and that you're enforcing the Model Code of Conduct, what is your one major worry as you go into these elections in 5 states? Is it money? Is it muscle power? Is it something else?
Well, if you ask for one big worry, basically it is always the muscle power, so that votes are not captured, the people can come and vote freely. That is always our standard worry. But lately, money power also has assumed very serious proportion. So we have to focus on that also.
Now, your most controversial decision until now, and there's a long way to go until this process is complete, is to order that Mayawati statues are covered and that her party symbol, the elephant, is also covered and draped. Now, there is criticism by some who say that it's an impractical move. What prompted this decision?
You know, I'm surprised that it is being taken as something unusual. There is a model code of conduct which expects that there will be level playing field between candidates, and in that model code of conduct it is very clearly laid down that nobody will have an advantage over the other candidate, unfair advantage, and government property, public property, will not be used for political gain, which means that even the photograph on the calendars in offices, portraits on the walls of the offices, whether it is Prime Minister, Chief Minister, Ministers, anybody, they have to be removed. And now if a portrait can be removed because it is on public property, a statue, just because it is bigger than a portrait, it cannot attract any other definition. It comes under the same definition, that here is a statue of a Chief Minister, a political leader, at a public place, made at public expense, and giving an unfair advantage to the concerned person.
But sir, you know, when you look at covering up election symbols like the elephant for the BSP, now again critics say, look at other election symbols. If you're covering up the elephant, then you should be finding a way to cover the hand or the bicycle. What would you say to them?
No. I think this criticism is totally ill-informed, let me say. Now, we are not saying that these symbols, are there anything wrong per se with the symbol. Elephant roaming in the street or in a private home, we have nothing to do. We are only talking of a public place being used for political propaganda. By all means, you have these elephants or the cycles or anything on a private property with the public party expense, but not at the public place at public expense. That is the difference.
But then what about the cost of the exercise of covering up the statues, Mr. Quraishi? Aren't you worried about that?
Well, this cannot be a consideration because there is a principle which has to be enforced. The model code does not make any distinction on the basis of cost. Then in future, people will come up with some bigger thing which will be more expensive to cover. And whatever the cost, but I don't think the cost is going to be so prohibitive. Covering them with the tarpaulin or the net which is used in construction of buildings so routinely is not such a big deal. No.
But then let me ask you something, you know, that other critics have also raised, is that after you drape these statues, they might actually draw more attention than defeating the purpose of the entire exercise.
So that is not our concern, because the principle is that at public place, a party symbol and a party leader is being projected at public expense. So even if it leads to any speculation, what is behind that cannot be our concern. And if somebody benefit or somebody is disadvantaged, that also is not our concern.
But let me ask you, Mr. Quraishi, do such issues or things really influence voters at the end of the day? Again, those who've criticized your decision say you're underestimating the Indian voter. These statues have been around for a very long time. Why do you think that, you know, voters would be unduly influenced by this now?
You know, yes, sir, they indeed do. They indeed do. The very fact that all political parties demanded that these statues be covered. So to say that everybody is critical, actually it was demanded by all the opposition parties. And since it is according to the model code which we always implement, And we have always done it, by the way. Now, in 2004, on the Golden Quadrilateral across the country, there were big hoardings displaying the picture of the Prime Minister. 2004. It was a different commission at that time, and all those hoardings were removed and the pictures covered. So it is consistent with something which we always do.
But what, according to you, is something that influences voters the most in the run-up to elections? Do you feel, and I ask you a larger question here again, that even the model code of conduct can be impractical at times?
Like what, for instance, which is obsolete? Because model code itself was evolved about 15-20 years ago, and by the political parties themselves. It is a code which they have given to themselves, and we are only enforcing it. And even the Supreme Court in its judgment has said that this has to be enforced very strictly and very equally.
Finally, sir, do you then at the end of the day feel that all those who have criticized your move to cover the statues are ill-informed, a term you used earlier?
Yes, obviously, because this is a regular feature of the model code, and we have always been doing it. And incidentally, on this elephantist issue particularly, 15 months ago, there was a court case. It was in the Supreme Court by Common Cause and two others, who said that this was these elephants were being constructed at public expense. And at that time, they also made a demand that this should be taken away as a symbol of the party. This case came to us in our quasi-judicial capacity. After listening to the advocates on the behalf of all the four parties, then we came to the conclusion that we cannot, it will not be feasible to take away the symbol. But we mentioned in that order that at the time of election, if it is found to disturb the level playing field, we will take due action, and which is exactly what we have done.
All right, Mr. Quraishi, thank you very much for speaking to us on NDTV today. It's a long innings ahead for you, these crucial elections. It's only the beginning of the process. Good luck to you with that. Thank you, sir.
NDTV's cricket app, Android and iPhone, fastest scorecard, special analysis, and much more. Download free. ndtv.com/apps.